We will always consider he loser, my sister's husband told my dad behind my back. When I found out I was cultured and stopped paying they bills. Month later when they came. When my dad told me what Ashley's husband, Jake, had said behind my back, I felt something shift inside of me, like a lock clicking on a door I should have noticed a long time ago. We'll always think of him as a loser. Of course, Jake was drunk when he said it. My dad told me he was sitting at the kitchen table, beer in hand, talking like he ran the world. He always got like that when he drank louder, cockier, acting like he had it all figured out while the rest of us were just fumbling through life. My dad said he and my mom started fighting after Jake made some rude comments, but the one thing that stuck with him was that line about me. It didn't even make sense, but the message was clear. Jake thought I was a joke. And that hit me hard because I had been their personal ATM for the past year. Jake had lost his job again because of his drinking. My sister, Ashley, had called me in tears, saying they were in trouble and needed some help. I had always been the responsible one in the family, the one who worked hard, saved money, and never asked for anything. So of course I stepped in. I paid her rent, her bills, her groceries. Ashley always promised they'd pay me back when things got better. And I believed her. I really thought I was helping them. I thought I was doing the right thing. But here I was, sitting in my parents' living room, hearing from my own father that Jake didn't respect me at all. Worse, my dad told me something that made my stomach turn. I thought you knew, he said. They fight all the time when they come over. Jake runs his mouth, acts like a big shot, but your sister is the one covering for him. And you know what else? They told me they were struggling, so I've been sending them $2,000 a month. For the last 4 months. I just stared at him. Wait, what? You've been giving them money too? He asked. I nodded slowly, the weight of it settling in. We looked at each other, and it was like a puzzle falling into place. Ashley and Jake weren't fighting. They weren't desperate. They were playing both of us. I sat back and exhaled hard. So between the two of them, they're getting at least $4,000 a month. Yep, Dad said, shaking his head. And who knows who else they asked? Mom was in the kitchen, listening. When she heard that, she turned around, eyes wide. They took money from both of you. And never said a word? Oh, this is sick. We sat there in silence for a while, letting it sink in. Then, without even having to say it out loud, we all came to the same decision. The bank was closed. No more free rides. No more handouts. No more playing the fool. I didn't tell Ashley. Neither did Dad. We just stopped paying. And at first, there was nothing. No calls. No texts. I figured maybe they had savings. Or maybe they were just too proud to reach out right away. But then, 2 weeks later, the chaos began. The first call came at 7 a.m. I was still half asleep when my phone buzzed on my nightstand. I looked at the screen and saw Ashley's name. I already knew what this was about. I let it ring. A minute later, another call. Then another. Then a text. Ashley, pick up. Urgent. I put my phone on silent. Then my dad called. I picked up right away. She just called me, he said. Demanding money. Demanding? I asked. Not asking? No. Demanding. Like we owe her. I could hear the frustration in his voice. He wasn't even surprised, just annoyed. She tried it with Mom. He continued. Same thing. Mom told her no. That's when Ashley lost it. What do you mean? Dad sighed. She said if we don't help them, we'll never see any grandchildren. Because she won't have any. I actually laughed. That's her move? Trying to hold imaginary grandchildren hostage? Dad chuckled too. I just said okay and hung up. It was a desperate attempt, but now we knew exactly what we were up against. Ashley and Jake had never planned on getting back on their feet. They just wanted the money to keep flowing. And when threats didn't work, they changed their strategy. Instead of fighting with me, they started fighting with Mom and Dad. They completely ignored them, refused to return their phone calls, and pretended they no longer existed. But with me? They suddenly became way too nice. Ashley started sending random texts. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're doing well." Then, "We should have dinner soon on me." I ignored her. Then Jake texted. Jake. The guy who called me a loser behind my back. "Hey bro, I just wanted to say I appreciate everything you've done for us. You're such a good guy and I hope we can hang out more." I almost laughed. It was so painfully fake. I didn't answer. Days passed. Then a week. They went silent. I thought maybe, just maybe, they had finally given up. I was wrong. Because then came Dad's birthday. Mom had planned a small dinner at their house, just close family. Dad was in a good mood, looking forward to a stress-free evening. But one thing was clear: Ashley and Jake weren't invited. Mom was nervous about that. "You know she's going to find out," she said. "I don't care," Dad said. "They're not welcome." And for a while, the evening went perfectly. We ate, we laughed, we reminisced about old stories. Dad looked happier than he had in months. Then, just as we were about to cut the cake, the front door slammed open. Everyone turned. And there they were. Ashley and Jake. Uninvited. Standing in the doorway like they owned the place. And the moment I saw Jake's face, I knew he was drunk. Not just tipsy. Wasted. The room fell silent. Ashley stood with her arms crossed, looking smug, while Jake swayed slightly, trying to focus his bleary eyes on Dad. His face was red and I could smell the alcohol from where I was standing. "Happy birthday, old man," Jake slurred, holding up a bottle of whiskey like it was some big present. "Thought you wouldn't mind if we stopped by." Dad didn't even look at him. His eyes were on Ashley. "What are you doing here?" Ashley scoffed. "Wow, really? No, hi, no, come in. We're family." "You weren't invited," Mom said, stepping forward. "You need to leave." Ashley rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Mom. We're not just going to let you all sit here and pretend we don't exist." "We weren't pretending," Dad said flatly. "We just didn't invite you." Jake took a shaky step inside. "Oh, I get it. This is Punish Ashley and Jake night, huh?" He turned to me. "Come on, Tommy, tell them they're being ridiculous." I didn't say a word. Ashley sighed dramatically. "God, you guys are so petty. This whole thing is stupid. We're going through a hard time, and instead of helping, you all turn your backs on us." "Help?" Dad snapped. "Ashley, we gave you thousands of dollars. And you lied about it. You took money from me and Thomas and who knows who else." Ashley's face darkened. "Oh, please, Dad. It's not like you can't afford it." I felt something inside me snap. "You lied to us," I said. "You made it sound like you were barely surviving, when in fact you and Jake were just sitting around doing nothing while we paid your bills." Ashley's eyes flickered, just for a second. But she recovered quickly. "Oh, shut up, Thomas," she snapped. "You're acting like you're some kind of hero. What, you think you're better than us just because you have a job?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I do." That set Jake off. "You little piece of—" he growled, taking a step toward me. But before he could finish, Dad moved. Faster than I'd ever seen him move. He stepped right in front of Jake, his face stone cold. "Get out." Jake blinked, as if he just realized that no one was on his side. He turned to Ashley, expecting her to do something, but she just stood there. Dad pointed at the door. "You got 5 seconds or I'm calling the cops." Jake opened his mouth, then seemed to change his mind. He muttered something under his breath, turned and stumbled back to the door. Ashley hesitated. "This is so messed up," she said. "You're putting money ahead of family." "No," Dad said. "We're choosing respect over being used." She scoffed, shook her head, and stormed out. Jake followed, almost tripping on the front step. The moment the door slammed shut, the tension broke. Mom let out a breath. Dad sat down. The rest of the family just looked at each other, stunned. Well, Dad finally said, reaching for his fork. Might as well have some cake. We laughed, but I knew this wasn't over. Ashley wasn't getting what she wanted. And knowing her, she wasn't going to let it go. The next morning, I woke up to a mess. My phone had dozens of missed calls from Ashley, but that wasn't even the worst part. I had texts from cousins, aunts, even some old family friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all saying some version of, "What's going on with you and Ashley? You really kicked her out of Dad's birthday? Dude, why don't you help your own sister?" Confused, I checked Ashley's social media. And there it was. A long, dramatic post about how she and Jake had been cruelly disowned by our family. She made it sound like we had thrown them out on the street, like they were homeless and starving, begging for scraps while her evil, heartless family hoarded money. She talked about how hard things had been, how they were just trying to survive, and how some people think money is more important than family. She never mentioned the thousands of dollars we had given her. She never mentioned that Jake had been fired for drinking on the job. She never mentioned her threats to withhold grandchildren as if they were some kind of bargaining chip. And of course, people ate it up. Her comments section was flooded with sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Ashley. You deserve better. Family should be there for you. I can't believe they did this to you." And then, buried in the comments, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A GoFundMe link. She had set up a fundraiser for herself. The title? "Help us get back on our feet after being disowned broken heart." The goal? $10,000. And people were donating. I scrolled through the list of donors in disbelief. Distant relatives. Some of Dad's old friends. Even some of our neighbors. She had fooled them all. I called Dad. "Did you see Ashley's mail?" I asked. "I just saw it," he said, his voice cracking with anger. "She's turned the whole damn family against us." Mom was yelling in the background. I just got off the phone with Aunt Carol. She actually believed her. She cried, Thomas. Crying. Talking about how we threw our own daughter away like garbage. Dad sighed. "This is insane." I clenched my jaw. "What are we going to do?" There was a long pause. Then Dad said, "I'll take care of it." I didn't know what that meant. But when Dad said he'd take care of something, he meant it. An hour later, he sent his own reply. No drama. No sob story. Just cold, hard facts. He listed every single payment he sent Ashley. He listed every single payment I had made to Ashley. Then the last line. "Ashley and Jake have received over $16,000 from us in the last 6 months. They were never disowned. They were cut off because they lied, manipulated, and used their own family. If you still want to donate, that's your choice. But at least now you know the truth." And then, because Dad is Dad, he attached screenshots. Bank transfers. Texts of Ashley begging for money. Everything. And just like that, the narrative flipped. The GoFundMe page? It was flooded with angry comments. People demanding refunds. People angry that they had been manipulated. Some even reporting the fundraiser for fraud. And Ashley? She went silent. Jake? He made the mistake of trying to clap back in the comments, calling Dad a liar only to have Dad drop more evidence, including screenshots of Jake personally asking for money. It was glorious. By the end of the day, Ashley had deleted her post. The GoFundMe was shut down. And most of the people who had taken her side, they quietly disappeared. But I knew Ashley. She wasn't done. She had lost publicly. Which meant she was about to make things very personal. Ashley went into full hiding mode after Dad exposed her. Her social media went quiet, no new posts, no comments, nothing. But that didn't stop people from talking. The damage was done. Our family wasn't huge, but word spread fast. Aunt Carol, who had originally been crying over Ashley's cruel disownment, called Mom back furious. "I can't believe she tricked me," she ranted. "I donated to that GoFundMe. I even shared it. Do you know how stupid I look now? It was the same with our neighbors. The same with distant cousins. Even some of Ashley's own friends turned on her. Everyone was saying the same thing. What the hell is wrong with her? But the biggest question on everyone's mind was why she and Jake needed so much money in the first place. They had no kids. No medical emergencies. They weren't even paying a mortgage, they rented. That's when Dad decided he wanted answers. And since Ashley wasn't answering any of our calls, he went to the one person who would be too stupid to keep his mouth shut. Jake. Dad didn't tell me his exact plan, just that he was going to figure some things out. Later that night, he called me, sounding way too satisfied. Talk to Jake, he said. I sat up. And? Well, let's just say he wasn't difficult to crack. That made sense. Jake was an idiot on a good day, and with how much he had been drinking lately, I wasn't shocked he let something slip. What did he say? Dad let out a short laugh. They lost it. All of it. I blinked. Lost what? The money. Everything we gave them. Everything they had saved. It took me a second to process that. Wait, what do you mean lost? Dad sighed. Crypto. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it like that would make the conversation make more sense. You're joking. I wish I was. Ashley and Jake, in their infinite wisdom, had decided to become crypto investors. Except instead of researching anything, they just threw money at whatever. Hot new coin. People were hyping up on Reddit. They were convinced they were about to get rich. Instead, they lost everything. Dad said Jake admitted it had started small, just a couple hundred here and there. But when they saw the prices drop, instead of cutting their losses, they poured more in, thinking they were buying the dip. Month after month, they watched their money disappear. Ashley had been the one pushing it the hardest. She had convinced herself that if they just held on, it would all turn around. But it never did. By the time Ashley called me crying about Jake losing his job, they were already thousands in the hole. That was why they had begged me for money. That was why they had begged Dad. Not because they were struggling to survive. Because they wanted to keep gambling. I ran a hand down my face. So all that money we gave them? Gone, Dad said. Flushed straight into the crypto toilet. I laughed. A genuine laugh. Oh my God! That's not even the best part, Dad said. You want to know why Jake told me? I already knew. Jake wasn't the kind of guy to confess things out of guilt. He had a reason. They wanted more money, didn't they? I guessed. Dad cackled. Bingo. Apparently, Jake had tried to spin it like an investment opportunity. He had rambled on about how the market is about to turn around, and how, if we just put in a little more now, we could all make millions later. Dad said he had never laughed so hard in his life. You told him no, right? I asked. Oh, I did more than that, Dad said. I told him if he ever called me again, I'd forward all the receipts to his parents and let them know exactly what their son's been up to. I grinned. And? He hung up so fast I thought his phone exploded. For the first time in months, I felt free. No more guilt. No more stress. Ashley and Jake had ruined themselves, and there wasn't a single person left willing to bail them out. For the next few months, Ashley and Jake spiraled. At first, they tried to act like everything was fine. Ashley started posting motivational quotes about perseverance and learning from failure, while Jake went radio silent, probably too embarrassed to show his face anywhere. But behind the scenes, they were desperate. They called everyone, aunts, uncles, distant cousins, even my mom's side of the family, who barely knew them. They gave the same sob story every time. We just need a little help. We're about to lose everything. We'll pay you back, we swear. But nobody fell for it. After what happened with the GoFundMe scam, word had spread. Nobody wanted to be the next fool handing them free money. And then, when begging didn't work, Ashley tried guilt-tripping. She called Mom late one night, crying about how we had abandoned her, and how she couldn't believe her own parents would watch her suffer. Mom just handed the phone to Dad, who told her one simple thing. You made this mess. You clean it up. And then he hung up. I think that was the moment Ashley finally realized that there were no more handouts coming. So, with no other options, they did the one thing they had been avoiding for years. They actually started looking for jobs. And it wasn't easy. Ashley had been out of work for too long, and nobody wanted to hire Jake with his brilliant record of getting fired for drinking on the job. I heard through one of my cousins that he eventually got hired at a warehouse, and Ashley picked up shifts at some retail store. It wasn't much, but at least they were finally earning their own money instead of burning through someone else's. A few months passed, and for the first time in years, my life was peaceful. No sudden phone calls asking for money. No fake pleasantries leading into requests for just a little help. One day, Dad called me out of the blue. You still keeping track of how much you gave them? He asked. I sighed. Yeah. It's depressing. Dad was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Let's forgive it. I blinked. What? We write it off, he said. Consider it gone. No more keeping track, no more stressing over it. We just move on. I thought about it. About all the money I had poured into them. About how they had lied to me, used me, laughed at me behind my back while they wasted every dime. But the truth was, I had already accepted I was never getting that money back. So I let it go. Yeah, I said. I'm good with that. And that was it. We never told Ashley. We never made some big announcement about forgiving the debt. Because, in reality, it wasn't for them. It was for us. They had already lost everything. Their money, their reputation, their family's trust. They were starting over from nothing. And that was their punishment. I haven't spoken to Ashley since. I don't know if she's truly changed or if she's just biding her time until her next big idea. But I hope she's learned her lesson. I hope she realizes that money isn't something you just take from people. That it's something you earn. And most of all, I hope she finally understands that, no matter what happens, she and Jake are on their own now. Update. Well, you won't believe this. So I hadn't heard from Ashley in months. No calls, no texts, nothing. Honestly, I was okay with that. But then, last week, I get a message from a random number. Hey Thomas! Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to tell you some exciting news. Jake and I are starting our own business. I already knew this was going to be stupid, but I asked anyway. What kind of business? Ashley answered immediately. Crypto coaching. We've learned so much from our experiences, and we want to help others avoid mistakes and make smart investments. Would love to talk to you about it. I stared down at my phone in disbelief. You lost everything in crypto. Their entire lives fell apart because of it. And now they thought they were qualified to teach people about it. I didn't even bother to reply. A few days later, Dad called me, laughing. Ashley texted me about this too, he said. Tried to get me to invest in her new business. I asked him what he said. I told her, Ashley, I wouldn't give you $5 to buy a sandwich, let alone invest in another one of your disasters. She didn't text back. So yeah? Here we are. Ashley and Jake, self-proclaimed crypto experts, trying to scam their way to another paycheck. Some people never learn.